the best laugh. That was the very best laugh. That was awesome. Okay. So we are here in Discord, you guys are going to have to decide whether could you guys put the tables down, please? Children. Okay. So what we're going to do right now is decide whether, well, no, I'm going to stick with the one instruction. It might be easier. Those of you who are listening to me on Discord, right click on the stream and mute it, because otherwise you will hear me twice. The web does not, which is quite sad. By the way, Abby, I will be moving you to the live site. I'm just going to do it because I need your help. I need your obsessive ability to organize things.
By the way, is there a Twitch link?
There is a Twitch link. There's so many links. Let me go get them. The links are right here. They are coming to you in your Discord chat in a moment. There you go. You can pick YouTube, Facebook, Twitch. We are live in all those places.
The Twitch stream doesn't seem to be working, but
okay.
I'm gonna try restarting my browser. It's just saying, yeah, it's not running.
All right, hold on. Let me check. Make sure that I'm live on all the places that I think I'm live in. I really appreciate it when people test these stream channels. Hold on, I'm checking. I am live. Yeah, I'm live. It says I'm streaming. Okay. It thinks I'm streaming. It also thinks there's no one watching. There is someone on YouTube, though, probably Himbo. Okay, let me go to my own link and make sure that it's streaming. It says click here to reload player.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting. Darn it.
Okay, hold on. Oh wait, then
I do see your live icon though.
Yeah, that's weird. Let me log in and see what's going on. Oh, I have to enter the code from my mobile phone.
Oh.
Okay. Never share this code with anyone. What are they going to do with it? Okay. The download was canceled. Please try again. What? Okay, so I will stop streaming and start streaming again, just in case that matters. Okay, I'm going to just stop the stream. Still says I'm live, so. Okay, now I'm not live anymore. Most recent video stream will begin soon. So it was there. We just couldn't see it. Okay, now I'm going to start streaming again. Now it thinks I'm live again. I don't think it's us.
Yeah.
Massive delay on YouTube, huh?
Oh. My friend here from China says they can access YouTube, so I'll give them that link instead of Twitch for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Snoopy's doing table math. You have joined Midjourney Prompting for Beginners. One of the things you should do if you are listening to me here on Discord is right-click on the stream will begin soon purple live stream that you probably see there and mute it. Otherwise, you'll hear me twice. Hello? I bet you weren't expecting to see a human being.
I'm waving. Hi.
Hi. Hello. Okay, so now I have to find the place where I put my script. Did I close the window like a champ? Did I close the window? It is fairly likely. In all of my preparation, I sometimes accidentally close the windows that I might mean to keep open. Welcome to Midjourney. I am glad you all could make it today. Whatever else you had going on. For the next couple of hours, don't worry, there's a break. We're going to be diving into the basics of prompting. The basics of prompting. So if you have questions that you're not sure are basic or not, just ask them. Don't hold back because you're thinking, oh no, it's for beginners, I better not ask. You should definitely ask whatever questions occur to you because all of us are, we can keep up with you. We can keep up. No question is too basic. No question is too advanced here at Midjourney Prompting for Beginners. And don't worry, we'll take a quick break in the middle for whatever you need to do, stretch or existential crisis or grab some water or whatever. So you're in the right place if you've ever typed something and hit enter and then looked at the results that Midjourney gave you and thought, well, that is absolutely not what I asked for. Big smile. What are you doing, Midjourney? So, has anyone felt that way? Show of hands in your chat there. If you have ever gotten back like a surprise, maybe it's a pleasing surprise. Maybe it was a surprise that made you go, ah, shit, this is nice. I'm going to save this for later. I'm going to use it. I don't know what you're going to do with it, but chances are Midjourney produced something beautiful, even if it wasn't what you wanted. Yeah, Morgan's saying, yeah. Himbo complains that it cannot read minds. Abby says yes with a Star Trek symbol. What is this? Live long and prosper. May your prompts always adhere. A Brown, yeah. So yeah, I see a lot of hands. Good. So this is our space to figure out how to get Midjourney to actually give us what we want. And to do that, we're not just going to talk about writing prompts. We're actually going to peek under the hood at how Midjourney actually thinks, how it works, because we can extrapolate from that how to prompt. And I think that's really the basis of everything. It's teach a man to fish, right? So I'm gonna teach you guys to fish. Quick ground rules. Don't put images in chat unless like invited. Share your image, please, because it makes the chat scroll, and I need it clear for all the stuff I'm going to paste into it. So, but absolutely fire away with questions. All questions, all the time. Chat at me like you're sitting in front of me. Interrupt me, chat, talk amongst yourselves, discuss what we're covering, stay on topic. It's all fair game. Let's try an emoji check-in. Just if you're listening and it's possible, give me any emoji at all. Any emoji? That one's fine. That one's fine. Any emoji. Thank you. Excellent. Because I want to make sure that when you are here at Prompting for Beginners, you are absolutely in the mood, fingers on keyboard, to interact with what I'm saying. And if you have access to voice, you can interrupt me in voice. If you don't have access to voice and want it, you can ask. This is a very small group. You have to imagine us all sitting around, you know, on a very small table, you know, in a cafe, just chatting, because there's not very many of us, and that means there's a great one-to-one relationship between some people who know and people who are asking, and it's just a good idea to keep to chat. So I want to encourage you to do that. And I want to encourage you to tell me, Clarinet, do not keep closing the window. You've got to keep the windows open. Okay. So let's start by watching how prompts go wrong. That's the easiest thing to do, is to watch how prompts go wrong. Because they will go wrong. And that's sometimes the fun part. I mean, there are, let me draw for a second here. I know it doesn't look like I'm going to draw, and that's because the iPad fell asleep, but I'm totally going to draw. You wonder how to pronounce my name?
No, that's me. I'm talking to my Chinese friend who's in the YouTube chat.
Oh, I see. Okay. So let me share one more time with my happy little iPad, and I will get us started. Doot. Okay. I have to look over there, even though really it's technically up here, isn't it? You're wrong is my interesting. That's right. It's true. I mean, there are two basic strategies. Hold on. Where are we? We're at prompting for beginners. Wow, that's a really thick line. Prompting for beginners. And it is 9:27. And we are talking about two basic what was that for? Can I help you, iPad? Is there something you want to tell me? Is there something you want to tell me, iPad? Okay. Interesting. Well, y'all yell if that goes away again, because it's not supposed to go away. Right. We can give it words with no particular outcome in mind, right? Which is what Himbo's talking about. We can just explore and discover, and not worry about whether the prompt shows up exactly the way we want it to. That's not the point. I mean, the point is, we're just pulling the lever of the dopamine casino, right? We just are trying to see what Midjourney's gonna do. And I actually like that so much that I have a GPT that will help you explore and discover. It just gives you completely random lists of words, which is super fun. See if I can bring this up so you can see. So if you just give it some random words, click random, it'll just give you some interesting words like, I don't know, conveyor belt system and Moorish arches and petrified wood. What? Like, what is that going to do? Like, that's fascinating. So you can go over to Midjourney and, create and see what that does. Kind of interesting. Whoa. Like, I never would have thought to do that myself, right? And that's amazing. Moorish arches, petrified wood, and a conveyor belt system. Midjourney definitely got all three of those, and it looks amazing. So, wow, that's particularly cool. I definitely believe very much in the explore and discover route. I think that we can get a lot out of that. But and you know, there's no right way to prompt, which is really the whole point of making sure we accept that there's that we can explore and discover. There's no advice anyone can give you that will work all the time. And if you're out there looking for prompting for beginners classes or prompting help, you're going to find people who try to give you templates or say, all you have to do is type it like this. All you have to do is use these words. All you have to do is, they're not telling you the truth. Those things won't work all the time. Don't let anyone sell you anything is what I say. But I tell you what, when you're aiming for a specific image and something's off, then there are systematic ways to troubleshoot. And it's the troubleshooting that is teachable, not so much the what to type in the first place, although gradually you become more fluent, but definitely how to troubleshoot. Because sometimes we're not playing around, right? Sometimes we want to guide Midjourney into producing a particular image we have in mind. And that's called prompt adherence. If you ever want the fancy phrase for that, prompt adherence. And that's like the second way to use Midjourney. And I think you guys are here in this class probably because you have specific visions and you want to learn how to guide Midjourney to realize those visions. And I don't think we have to put a versus here. I think this is definitely an and. These are things we always do. We explore, we discover, and then sometimes we veer into trying to make something specific and back out again, and those two things are just braided together, and we just do them both. So far so good. Let's do that emoji check-in again just to make sure you're still with me. Mina, how are you? Mariana, Carlos, Shaktuk, Samuel, welcome. This is Prompting for Beginners. Thank you so much for throwing me a thumbs up. Welcome, Wei Hao. Okay, so what kind of mistakes do we see Midjourney making? I lump them into three categories. So the kinds of mistakes we see Midjourney making. I insist on doing this whiteboarding handwriting thing, even though my handwriting is terrible. So let's just enjoy that. Three things. So we've got 1, 2, 3 things we're going to talk about. The first thing is missing, dropped, or lost details. Like you ask Midjourney to do some stuff and it doesn't put it in there. I'm lumping them into 3. Himbo's like, there's an infinite number of ways Midjourney can screw you. It's like, it's true. He's not wrong. But we're going to go ahead and just kind of try to lump them together so that we can have a discussion about it. So I'm going to go back here for a second. Dropping details. When your prompt specifies a detail and Midjourney doesn't provide it, that's what I'm talking about. When your prompt specifies a detail and Midjourney doesn't provide it. So a lot of people think that the mistakes that Midjourney makes are because the prompt is too long. And I'm here to prove to you that it doesn't matter how long the prompt is. It matters what the prompt is sort of demanding of Midjourney. I mean, if your prompt says the cat, the cat, it can go on for 1,000 words. And if the only 2 tokens in it are the and cat, it'll render perfectly, right? Because Midjourney doesn't look at the prompt length. It doesn't care how many words you use. It cares what those words are asking it to do. So I'm going to prove that to you right now. Here's a really long prompt, and we're going to watch it go magnificently wrong as I put it into Midjourney here. it's going to go magnificently wrong because you're thinking, well, that prompt is really long, but it's not actually that it's very long. It's what it demands. It's asking for a woman who is young. I mean, let's count how many details there are. Excuse me, hiccup. Do I have a volunteer to count details as I read them out loud? Johnny, can I count on you to count on the details?
Okay.
Okay, here we go. Johnny's going to keep count. Okay, a young woman. Wears doesn't count because it's implied by a floral scarf, red glasses, purple vest, engineering boots, orange leather purse, black hair, long braided pink feathers, ankle length skirt, bordered stars and moons, dark purple sash belt dangles hip, standing library holding library card, old and librarian, behind counter journalistic photography. How many details is that?
Something like 40, 41?
Something like 40? It should be 40. When I wrote it, I tried to hit 40. Okay. So I think we're around 40. And how many did Midjourney get? Right? Like there, I mean, you can tell right away. Young, we can do a check here. Young, check. Woman, yes. Floral scarf, nope. Red glasses, arguably yes. Purple vest, sort of. Pink engineering boots, I don't know what those are. They're surely very decorative. Orange leather purse, we got that, that's fine. Black hair, long, good. Braided with pink feathers, braided, yes. Pink feathers, no. Ankle length skirt, yes. Not really, I don't know. Bordered with stars and moons, no. Wears a dark purple sash belt, not really. Dangles down her hips, no. Standing in a library, okay, we got that one. Holding out a library card, yes. Old librarian, no. Journalistic photography, maybe. This one, no. Did not get journalistic photography. Yeah, none of these. Oh, this one's pretty close. It's not bad. Good job, Midjourney. No feathers in the hair, but that's a lot of stuff that it got right. So, you know, I don't know what happened to my voice. Is anyone else experiencing any issues with my voice?
Can you hear me?
Hi, Brown.
Sound fine to me.
I hear like crazy chipmunk.
Huh?
I don't know, but I suddenly crave acorns. I want acorns. Leave the call and come back. Leave the call and come back. Or Brown. So that's missing and drop details. I'm sure that some of you have encountered that before. The second one is blending. Blending is a really interesting one to think about. Blending, the definition of blending is when the AI mixes characters and characters or objects, mixes them together. So they don't stay visually distinct. They don't stay visually separate. So when we see uncontrolled blending, uncontrolled, undesirable blending, Himbo says aren't styles blends. Everything Midjourney does is a blend, technically. So blending is undesirable blending or uncontrolled blending. That's when we see everything starting to take on characteristics of everything else, of other things in the image. But we also do controlled blending on purpose. That's how we create like cool hybrid animals, like a puppy macaw. I wonder if I can create a hybrid. Let's see, a fantasy hybrid puppy macaw. Oh, you can't see me typing. They didn't switch the scene. Aw, that's controlled blending. Look at him. Okay, so blending is often quite desirable, but it's also sometimes not at all desirable. Like, here's a really, really short prompt. So those of you who are fans of saying, oh, the prompt is too long. Yeah, it's a really cute animal. Hybrid animals are some of my favorite things to do. They cheer me up. They just cheer me up. I admit it. I'm an adult and they still cheer me up. But here's a much shorter prompt. It's just a bunch of animals having a picnic, right? But if I put this in here, let's see if we can get a bunny, a hedgehog, a mouse, and a fuzzy monster having a picnic. We cannot get those things. I don't know what we're getting. We're getting a monster, 2 things I don't understand, and a bunny. 3 things I don't understand, a bunny and a hedgehog, and no monster, unless that's the monster. That's a pretty cute monster. This is also a pretty cute. It's a bunch of pretty cute monsters. But you see, Midjourney can't. You can see that Midjourney can't keep them clear, right? That's blending. Midjourney's blending them. Midjourney's conflating them visually. So they're not. You're not getting a distinct bunny, a distinct hedgehog, and so on. So that's another type of mistake that Midjourney can make. And then another one, which is fun to talk about, is incoherence. You might hear this word a lot. Incoherence is when Midjourney's output stops making visual sense. So figures and objects and scenes, they kind of lose internal consistency. Like a person might have 3 arms or an extra leg or not enough legs or something. And all or parts of the composition have collapsed into some sort of visual nonsense. So here's an even shorter prompt just to prove that these problems don't come from the length of the prompt. Here's an even shorter prompt that we can try here. It's just some acrobats doing cartwheels on the beach, right? It's a good example of incoherence. Okay, his head is on backwards. He's got one arm down and one arm is broken. This person's leg just becomes little stubs. I don't know what's going on with these people, but they're scary. Yeah. So these people don't make any sense, right? They don't make any visual sense. That's incoherence. That one's not bad. I mean, there's some problems. Some serious problems, but you know. So but those are the 3 kinds of Midjourney mistakes. So let me ask you this. Does anyone have any questions about the 3 kinds of Midjourney mistakes? If you have a question, you can type Q, or you can type your question, or you can talk. How are we doing? So far, so good? Okay, so far, so good. How to avoid, that is where we're going next. I'm so glad you asked that, because the next question on everyone's mind is what can we do? Nobody asked, why does it happen? Hey, Josh. What can we do and why does it happen? Well, I'll give you the a short explanation of why it happens, and then I'll give you some things that we can do. The very short explanation of why it happens. Let me move this down a little bit. Very short explanation of why it happens is Midjourney. Let me ask you this. You guys know you buy minutes, right? You buy minutes on servers to run your jobs. That's how the Midjourney plan works. You buy minutes. I mean, I can show you that, I suppose. Let's see. Manage subscription. Right. This is you're buying minutes. And so when you think about the things Midjourney's doing, think, well, we've bought a set number of minutes for this to happen. I don't know how many minutes it is. We have X minutes to finish the prompt. So Midjourney's got a couple of things to do. It's got to read the prompt. It's got to look at its own training. It's got to apply whatever styles is going on. Has to check the prompt to make sure that it's still doing well. It has to make sure that the moderation happens okay. It has to check the style again. Okay, I'm already out of time. Do you see how much just fell off the end? Right? I'm out of time. So this is why these mistakes happen. Because of what's in the prompt, Midjourney runs out of time before it can finish making everything correct. Out of time before it can make everything correct. So if it's out of time before it can make it all correct, that sort of implies that there's, it's too much to do in the allotted time. So that implies a couple of things. First of all, most people ask right away, well, how do we give it more time? And the answer is there's no mechanism to give it more time, not for prompt adherence. There's a mechanism to give it more time for beauty, for Midjourney's idea of beauty. We have something called the quality parameter. It stands for quality. And that sends details and aesthetics, gives more times to details and aesthetics, but not prompt adherence. So you can't use it to increase prompt adherence. There is no mechanism for increasing prompt adherence except to change the way you're prompting, troubleshoot your prompt, see if you can fix it. And then if you're an advanced user, to actually go beyond the prompt and start using other features of Midjourney to get the adherence you want, like layers and editor and remix and variations and all kinds of other things, and taking it out of Midjourney to another tool. Really advanced users of Midjourney have multi-step workflows, multiple steps in their process in order to accomplish the adherence that they're chasing, the image that they're chasing. But what we can do as beginners is learn a little bit about how we might change our prompt, not how to write the prompt. Really, the process is you write the very best prompt you can. You write the prompt you think is going to work, and then you see what Midjourney does, and then you adjust it based on what sorts of things Midjourney gives you back. So the very first thing we should do, though, is make sure we're in control of the canvas at all. I mean, if it's not controlled with the prompt, if the canvas, the image is not controlled with the prompt, then Midjourney, it just defaults to its own learned stereotypes. And you'll hear me use this word a lot. I'll say stereotypes, or I'll get even bigger and say archetypes. archetypes is like an even bigger or a more encompassing word. So a stereotype might be a librarian, and a librarian has a certain look. Her hair is in a bun, and she has glasses, and she has a book in her hand or something like that. But an archetype of a librarian is enormous. It includes the kind of architecture she's probably standing in. It includes the era in which that word was probably most that stereotype was most often depicted. It includes the textures and shapes that like tweed, right, that are most associated with librarians. It's much larger. It's this and all the surrounding milieu. Can I use this word? I can't pronounce it. I think I can spell it. It's the whole milieu. So Midjourney defaults to those. Midjourney defaults to archetypes if we don't go out of our way to steer it. So we have to make sure we're sort of owning the canvas. That's like the first troubleshooting step, because we're the artists, right? Not Midjourney. And the most basic troubleshooting step is to ask yourself, am I controlling it? So that's step number one. Am I controlling it, or is Midjourney controlling it? Because that's the first place where things go wrong. So at the most fundamental level, we want to make sure our prompt addresses the full digital composition. So thinking of a digital composition, there's our image, right? And one of the things we have is, let's see, I'm going to have to pick let's pick a different color. One of the things this image has is a subject matter, and something else the image has is a background or context in which that subject matter appears, right? And then another thing, so we have the subject and the background. And then the other thing we have is sort of the entire aesthetic of the thing. So we have the subject, we have the background, and then the whole thing is the style or the aesthetic in which it is rendered, like journalistic photography or whatever else you've put in there. So the first thing you can ask about controlling it is this checklist. Do you have somewhere in your prompt the subject, the background, and the style? It's a checklist. It's not a way to write a prompt. You might be tempted to say, well, that's the template. I should have subject, background, style. I should write in that order. But in fact, I mean, let's say this is a super, super, super long prompt, right? If you're troubleshooting to make sure you're controlling the whole canvas, what you'd want to do is say like, okay, do I have the subject? Yes. I mentioned the subject here, and I mentioned the subject here, and I add one more detail about the subject here, so I can check that off. The background. Yeah. I talk about the background in this part of the prompt, and I summarize some of it here. I add a detail there. So yes, I do control the background. What about the style or aesthetic? Do I control that? Well, I might say, okay, I have a few words here and here about how it's said, but I also have an sref, and an image reference if I'm an advanced user. I might have some parameters in play too, so I can check that off. So that is your first troubleshooting step. Am I controlling it? And that seems deceptively simple. To just go ahead and check your prompt, make sure you're controlling those three things. But all problems start there. All problems start with whether you're controlling it. So I want you guys to think about that. You've got the subject or the focal point of the image, you've got the context, and you've got the style. Mariana asks, is it better to put these elements in order so that it works better? Nope, it's just a checklist. It's not an order. There are rules for why you would put something in order, but it's not about where the subject appears in the prompt. I can tell you a little bit more about order, order or sequence of words, because people are curious about it. People think, well, maybe I should make a prompt template like it's a subject and a background and a style. Like maybe that's the order in which I should put it. And you can. No one's stopping you from putting, Mariana, if you want to use that as your basic prompt template, we can all, you know, develop what we think works best or what is easy to remember or whatever. I like subject, background, style. I'll use it. But not everyone has to use that. But here's the thing with word order. Here's where it really matters. Let's say you want a pond surrounded by willow trees. So you're thinking of your, you know, you want some sort of pond, and it's going to have some willow trees around it. These are willow trees, guys. Just bear with me here. And so you write a prompt that says a pond surrounded by willow trees, and you give it some sort of style. But this is what you're expecting, but what you get back from Midjourney is a pond. This is what Midjourney gives you back. Here's your pond, and Midjourney has like some willow trees on the edge of the frame, like this. And you're like, what the heck? Midjourney, I was expecting, let me put the frame on this. I was expecting my picture to be framed like that. But instead, I've got a frame like this. Where the heck are my willow trees, Midjourney? This is what this produced. So if you change, Mariana, if you change it around and say willow trees surround a pond, it doesn't matter where in the prompt this phrase is, but if you say willow trees surround a pond, now all of a sudden, when you get this picture, Midjourney is going to put the willow trees, right? The willow trees surround the pond, right? You told Midjourney by the way you said it that it's the willow trees that surround the pond. The willow trees are the focal point. So a pond surrounded by willow trees gets a big pond. Willow trees surround a pond gets big willow trees. And that's how English works. That's just how we talk. I mean, if I say the willow trees are surrounding the pond, you get a different picture in your head than a pond surrounded by willow trees. You think of the pond first and stick some willow trees around it. So Mariana, does that answer your question about order and sequence? This is how order and sequence matters. Okay, very good. So let me put the troubleshooting step number 1 into the chat. So for those of you who are just copying and pasting notes or whatever, you can grab these as we go. If your prompt doesn't control it, Midjourney's going to make it up. So, you know, start there. We don't want Midjourney making it up. So control it yourself. So far, so good. Any other questions? Mariana did the right thing by interrupting. You guys doing okay? Right, Mariana. It's more like grammar than programming. Excellent, Josh. Thank you for taking the time to do that. I'm going to unmute you, Josh, just on the off chance you want to ask questions out loud. And George. Hi, George. Subject, verb, object versus object, verb, subject, etc. That's right. Thank you, Snoopy. Very good. So again, you know, some problems can't be solved in prompting. And in our advanced classes, which are, at least right now, they're Thursdays at the same time, but on Thursdays, you can learn when to use multiple steps. And I said, as before, they involve the editor and retexture and remix and image references, all those things. But as beginners, we explore prompting more than once to chase the image we want. We write the very best prompt we can, the one we're convinced will do the trick because, you know, we've done the subject, background, style. We know that we're trying to control it. It seems clear. But then if it doesn't do the trick, we start tweaking the prompt. So that's what I want to talk about next is tweaking the prompt. So red seems to be my base color here. I often do this on a white background, and I thought I would experiment with a black background so that it doesn't burn out your retinas. So I hope this is okay. Yeah, it's I'm not sure whether everything is going to show up just right on it. We might have to burn out our retinas later, but let's see. So troubleshooting step number 2, again, is just prompt more than once. I mean, I know it sounds simple, but you need to know what the prompt will do. And it would be great if this was a programmatic experience and we could just say, well, we type the words in this order and these words. So clearly this is what Midjourney is going to do. It doesn't work like that. There's a lot of randomization. There's a lot of chaos in diffusion, and Midjourney is a diffusion model. So you prompt more than once. You need to know what the prompt will do. And then you prompt again to sort of go in surgically, right, and support the details that Midjourney is messing up a little bit. You add descriptive support for the details Midjourney got wrong. You add clarity in the form of, remember, we just talked about this, correct punctuation, grammar, and spelling. It all helps because of how Midjourney works, which we'll go into. Descriptive support for the details Midjourney got wrong is just bouncing right off of, did I control it? Right? I mean, if I say a bunny and I get a white bunny because the default bunnies are white, and I'm like, oh no, I wanted it to be a green rabbit, then I have to actually put that in the prompt. A lot of people are so pleased with Midjourney's outputs that they forget, and then they get something they don't want, and they forget that the most powerful tool in Midjourney's arsenal of many tools is the prompt. And almost always you can go into the prompt and if it's in Midjourney's training data, then you can get Midjourney to produce the image. It's fantastic. So let's look more at tweaking the prompt. Let's try this prompt. Create. All right. Woman drinks from an owl-shaped mug, sitting in a cafe, editorial photography. Show of hands, did I control the subject, the background, and the style? Can I get a Y for yes and an N for no? Brush strokes behind your browser. Oh, I like seeing. I thought you were warning me. You're seeing brush strokes. I was like, oh, okay. Yes, I controlled the subject, the background, and the style. Thank you, Morgan, Johnny, Josh, and Himbo. I did. So that gives me the best possible start. At least I made an attempt to control the canvas. But this is who I got back. And first of all, there's a lot of black and white in here, and I didn't want black and white. I didn't know that I didn't want black and white, otherwise I would have put it in the prompt. But now I see Midjourney's doing black and white. Why? I don't know. I don't want black and white. And also, she's holding the mug like a sippy cup, like this. I'm going to drink some coffee while I've got my sippy cup. It is possible to drink coffee from holding it like a sippy cup, especially if you have sippy cup handles on either side. But this is actually an example of blending. Do you see? Let me bring one up closer so you can see this a little better. You see the owl, right? The owl in the center. And owls generally are depicted with wings on either side. And so Midjourney is conflating the position of the hands and the owl's wings. So that's actually an example of blending, I think. That's my theory. That the reason why she's got her owl up with her hands is that Midjourney thinks it's appropriate to put something there because generally the wings would go there. Right. Josh says it makes me want her to have feathered fingers. I think that's what's happening. I think that's what's happening is why she's holding it with both hands in all of these. I don't know if I'm right, but that's my theory because of what I know about blending. So could you change the mug? You mean say that it's a glass of water instead? Oh, the animal. Yeah, I could probably say a llama-shaped mug or something, and then she probably wouldn't hold it that way. That's how we can test. I don't know what a llama-shaped mug looks like. Do you drink out of the head? Blending, ladies and gentlemen. Some serious blending going on. At least she's got one-handed on some of these. Maybe it's the word mug. Maybe just people cradle mugs. It's possible. Did anyone else just like, I totally like laughed so loud I blew out my mic. I hope somebody else laughed. Okay, so it's not the wings. I thought maybe it was an example of blending, but it appears. Now there's an example of blending because the alien has a face and it's conflating it with her face. See the position? It thinks faces go about there, right? So you begin to see where Midjourney is doing the wrong thing based on its own understanding of how vision works, on how images work, which is the alien is an archetype that includes UFOs and this era. So I said alien, so it put it in this era's cartoon, 40s or 50s cartoon, and it started putting spaceships around. Fantastic. Look at her weird alien roach necklace. And her eyeshadow and stuff is all alien-like. Archetypes, man. So anyway, the point is that I want this woman, no matter what kind of mug she's drinking out of, I want her to, for God's sake, use one hand. So anyone want to make a guess, even the veterans? What's my first step? Control it myself. Y'all all need to type that in. Morgan, Mariana, do me a favor. Type control it myself. Control it myself. I'm going to type it too. Control it my own damn self. Because you know what? It's a really good adage for life in general. Control it myself. Control it myself. Yes, Morgan says ask to use one hand. Right. So edit the prompt. Change your prompt. Try it again. Exactly what Morgan said. She's entirely on the ball. Try saying she holds it in one hand. Just try it. Maybe she'll hold it in one hand. I don't know. I'm going to try. At least I've tried to control it myself. Step 1, try to control it yourself. Control it mice elf. Get your mice elf around. Aha! Guys, look what we got. Holding it in one hand. Holding it in one hand and cradling it. One hand and cradling it. One hand and cradling it. Ah, we've made progress. Progress. That's fantastic. It's still not quite right. Still not quite what we had in mind. The first thing we noticed is that Midjourney took the camera and tilted it down to look at the mug. Okay, do you remember what we said about the pond and the willows? I spent more time on the mug. Now it's not a woman holding a mug. It's a woman holding an owl-shaped mug in one hand. Like I've emphasized the mug grammatically, like, right? Like if you read this in a book, you would think to yourself, oh, clearly the mug is important, right? Because I spent so much time on it. So Midjourney is like, aha, your focal point must be the mug. So if that's true, how do we bring the camera back up so that her face is in the frame? Mariana, Morgan? No Elson works? Anyone want to guess? Romaine? Yakko? Do you know? Who's going to guess? Josh says mention a hairstyle, because if that's a good guess, because Josh is suggesting, look, if we mention the hairstyle in the prompt, Midjourney is going to strive to obey the prompt. In order to depict the hairstyle, Midjourney must bring the camera back up. Otherwise, the hairstyle won't be in the picture. Use the word portrait. Portraits are archetypally pictures of like head and shoulders. So that would bring the camera up. What about a facial expression? Midjourney must obey the prompt. So if you put something like she's smiling in the prompt, Midjourney must bring the camera up in order to show you that face. Clara Bell, very good. Space. Excellent work. This is a new listener. Can you give the link to your GPTs? I can. A crying woman, incredibly depressed because she has to drink coffee, holds an L-shaped mug in one hand while wiping tears away with her other hand, except I can't help. Incredibly depressed because she has to drink coffee. Poor thing. Okay, so first of all, let me grab the link to the GPT, which is sitting right here in a big tease. Where is it? Prompt helper. I'm going to put this in here and I'm going to see, Clarabelle, tell me if it reaches you. It's supposed to. Okay. If you guys see this pop up on your screen over there and I'm not responding to those people, you see how it pops up? Yell at me. I'm going to try bringing the chat over here so I don't miss it. I do see now. Wei Hao asks, can you give Midjourney a picture and give him a hint? Let him generate pictures according to the style of the pictures you gave him. Yes. Wei Hao, yes. Yes, we can definitely get a demo in a minute here. Clarabelle says, I always thought of blending as a combination of images for different characterization and style. Clarabelle, you are not wrong. That is controlled or intentional blending. That's us blending. Us blending is quite good. Midjourney blending, when we don't want it to, that undesirable blending, that's what we're trying to control. So you're not wrong that blending means all of those things. Oh, I didn't put it in here, did I? Romaine. Now, that prompt helper is a little bit stale. I have to update it with a few things. But, oh, very good, except it's not editorial photography. And it's not an owl-shaped mug. It's a mug with an owl on it. Come on, get your head in the game, Snoopy. Work on it. All right. So where are we? Oh, yes. We're taking Josh's advice, is what we're doing this time. Now, somebody said focus. Who said focus? That was an interesting, Morgan, you said focus. I'm going to unmute you in case you want to say more about that, or you can say more in chat. What were you thinking when you said focus? That's a really interesting idea. Like, just tell Midjourney focus on her face? Like, type that in. Focus on her face. Okay. Brilliant idea because it contains the word face. But Midjourney doesn't take commands or instructions. So it's not an LLM. It's not ChatGPT or Claude or Grok or any of those AIs that you can just chit chat with and say, look, could you just pull the camera up, focus on her face? You can't speak to Midjourney that way. You can only describe. So focus on her face might work because it contains the word face. And if Midjourney is going to obey your prompt, it must contain a face, it must pull the camera up. So by accident, that might have worked. So great idea, but I am putting the caveat that the commanding, like the imperative voice, but focus on her face, that Midjourney doesn't understand that kind of language. But face works. So let's try that. Let's try what Morgan and Josh said. I'm pausing a minute because I gotta grab my, don't want to type everything from scratch. Okay. So here we go. Boing. Should have been bigger this whole time. Yeah, featuring, the word featuring is probably not doing a whole lot, but the blah, blah, blah is probably doing a lot. By the way, if you have joined us here on Discord and you are hearing my voice twice and you don't know what to do about it, then the right thing to do about it, I should have said this earlier, is to right-click on the stream and mute it. Because you're hearing me both through this microphone and through the stream, because I also have to send my voice out to the other channels. So you might be hearing my voice twice. So just mute the stream here in Discord. So this time we said a woman with brown eyes and hair in a messy bun holds an owl-shaped mug in one hand, sitting in a cafe, editorial photography. I don't know why her mug got really, really, really tiny here. I don't know why that happened. Thanks, Midjourney. She's back to holding it in two hands, for God's sake. This one, I don't know what she's doing. She's doing something with her. There's some incoherence with the hand. I don't know. Yeah, now we've got the focus fixed. But you're keeping the steam in, yeah. We got the focus fixed, but she's still she's going back to two hands. So if Midjourney obeys my prompt and I need to control it, notice that I've only controlled one hand. I've only talked about one hand, the hand holding the owl-shaped mug. So the other hand, Midjourney gets to make it up. Midjourney gets to make up what's happening with the other hand because I didn't control it. I didn't control both her hands. I only controlled the hand holding the owl-shaped mug, and I let Midjourney decide what it's going to do with the other hand. So if I want this hand, the extra hand, to go somewhere, then I'm going to have to put it in the prompt, right, Morgan? Control it ourselves. I have an extra hand that's not being controlled. I got to control it myself. So I either have to say that it's resting on the table, like George there, or I have to say maybe she's holding her phone in the other hand, right? Do I have a phone to demonstrate this, right? Yeah, George. So we gotta go ahead and try that. George, you can paste your prompt in if you want. It's a little mysterious to paste just the image. Thank you, Josh. I know what you're thinking. I'll think it with you quietly in the back of my head. All right. So, oh my God, it worked. Look at that. We controlled it ourselves. We controlled it ourselves. Now she's holding the mug with one hand. She's got her phone in the other hand because we said so. In this one, what is this called? You guys, my students, what is this called when she's sprouted a third hand? What's the word for it?
Incoherence?
Incoherence. Very, very good. You get a trophy. Incoherence. Very good, Morgan. Incoherence. So, okay, but how do we judge whether our prompt is working? If we get 2 out of 4, our prompt is pretty strong. We got 3 out of 4. our prompt is pretty strong. George got 4 out of 4. His prompt is pretty strong. But just because one of them is off doesn't mean that our prompt is not performing. Our prompt is performing. That's great. And I might be able to, add a little bit of grammar and spelling and see if I can get it even better. Let's see. Or maybe it'll get worse. Editorial photography of a boho woman with brown eyes. Her hairstyle is a messy bun. In one hand, she is holding a mug in the shape of an owl. She's holding her iPhone in the other hand. She's sitting in a cafe. 3 out of 4 again. And a little bit of incoherence here. She has a pet owl. Why does she have a pet owl? Maybe because I said she is holding a mug in the shape of an owl. So holding a blah, blah, blah owl. Holding owl. Or she's a wizard. Right. So tweaking the prompt. How are we doing? So far, so good? Mike, Michelle, I haven't heard from you. Let's all chime in. Mina, Westendorf. Emotional support owl. I want an emotional support owl. Time to prompt an emotional support owl. A therapy owl, Morgan. I love that. I sometimes watch YouTube videos of people with pet owls, like they've rehabbed an owl and they cannot release it back into the wild. And so the owl just like is walking around their house and doing owl things. Love. Love. Totally too cute. All right, so the next question people tend to ask is, great, so why do some things work and some don't? Why did some of these prompts pay off? I mean, we heard the principle, control it yourself, fight the stereotypes and the archetypes. If some part of some detail is misbehaving, see if you can go in and fix it with the prompt, like address the part that's misbehaving. And we learned about, the willows versus the pond, right? How do we phrase it to change the sort of the focus and so on? It doesn't have to do with prompt length. It doesn't have to do with prompt order. It has to do almost more with the grammar. But there is the question, why does it work that way? And we got a taste of that when I talked about the length of time we have, and then I showed how we can exceed the allotted time and then things start to go wrong. And so we can do a deep dive into that, but I think we could take a 5-minute break before we go into how Midjourney works. How are you guys feeling about that? 5 minutes? You can go get a drink, walk around.
Yeah. Sounds nice.
Okay. 5-minute break.
Get more coffee.
Get more coffee. Oh God, yes. All right, and I'll put this on the screen. I think you guys can see that. Yes, with an owl mug. I do have an owl mug. I should bring it to the next class so I can demo a little bit better. Okay. I'll bring us back in 5 minutes. You can hear me drinking. Sorry. All right. Let's start coming back to our class. Welcome back. Welcome back. All right, so let's carry on. The next thing we wanted to talk about then, after figuring out our first troubleshooting steps, which is if your prompt doesn't control it, Midjourney makes it up. And second troubleshooting step, prompt more than once and start getting closer and closer. And before we go into the other troubleshooting steps, maybe we should talk a little bit about how Midjourney works, which will sort of allow us to extrapolate a little bit more about why things are panning out the way they do. So why does Midjourney work the way it does? And sometimes why doesn't it? So the answer is that the whole process may look magical to us as new users, but under the hood, it's just 3 stages. And we're going to talk about those 3 stages. Let's see. 3 stages we'll talk about. This stage 1, 2, and 3 stages. So the first stage is training. Let's talk about training. Training begins with data sets like Lion. And I'm afraid at this point we might have to, well, how is that looking? Can you guys see this? Is that high enough resolution? I mean, high enough contrast? Or should I switch to a pale background? Yeah, it does. It looks like flowers. See, can I rotate this thing? There we go. I'm going to stick it right under training. Okay. So training begins with data sets like Lion. This is a data set. And I'm going to give myself, there we go. It's called a data set. Lion is a nonprofit group that scrapes images and captions from across the internet, okay? Midjourney doesn't scrape. What we do is we purchase a data set from Lion, and then we curate the data set. So we get a bunch of stuff from Lion, and then that curation matters. So we filter for beauty, we filter for usefulness to artists, we filter for ethical use. We might filter out screenshots or pornography, anything else that doesn't really serve the creative practice that Midjourney wants to encourage. So while Lion's scrape is broad and messy, and there's a lot of discussion about how that might be better regulated, the set that Midjourney actually trains on is hand selected and quite refined. So here's a bunch of images that might be correlated to like flowers, floral, botanical, I don't know, vines, blossoms, maybe colors, different colors, petals, leaves, right? The sorts of things that are correlated to these kinds of images. And from there, the model is learning correlations, which words align with which shapes and colors. So let's put a picture of Midjourney's brain sort of here. You can see that the colors inside of, I feel like you can't really see that because I put it in a black box. But Midjourney is actually looking, this is going to be an eyeball, drawing an eyeball. Midjourney looks at all of these pictures and these words. Right? And it all goes into its head and comes out in its little latent space here. That's what this is called. Midjourney doesn't really have a brain. It has a mathematical latent space in which the words and the details are the shapes and colors and textures, and the words that they're correlated with exist in the, I don't know, they're called correlations in the latent space. It's very hard to picture. I picture it as a cloud, so you can see the individual colors are in the cloud of things that it's learned, but also the shapes of flowers and so on. It doesn't know anything about objects. It's literally just rules for pixel placement. That's all it has. Rules for pixel placement. It doesn't, notice there's no database of images in this. There's no picture of a flower in here. There's no stolen art in here. The only thing that's in here is rules for pixel patterns and the correlations to the words that trigger the rules for pixel patterns. So we just have math that's words that lead to pixel patterns. That's what's in that cloud. Okay. And as part of this process, every training image, like the way it learns, every training image is gradually turned into static, into visual noise in a series of controlled steps. And at each step, the model also learns how to reverse that specific recipe of noise back into the original picture. What? That's how it's developing the skill to make the pictures. So let me show you what that looks like. So we have a picture of a flower, right? I'll draw the flower here. we have some sort of picture of a flower. That's a flower, you guys. And Midjourney, in a series of steps, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5, many steps, gradually turns that picture into static, into just noise, visual noise. And then it takes the noise and through a series of steps, see if I can do this. Yes, I can. Yes, I can. Through a series of steps, turns it back into the picture. So it goes through a series of steps. And that's how the static gets turned back into a picture. So now we've got all of this information, all of this math about how noise becomes an image and how, well, basically how noise becomes an image correlated, and the image is summoned with words. Correlation. So this is the training. This these yellow lines here where I say it goes into the eye and goes into the brain, this drawing here is what's happening, is what the eyeball is doing. Okay. So the eyeball takes every image, turns it into static, and then turns the static back into the image, and then memorizes the math, which is this stuff. And that's how it knows how noise turns into an image and associated with the words. And that brings us to our second bubble, which is diffusion. Diffusion is the stage where the model learns. This right here. This is diffusion. It learns how random noise can be turned back into a picture. Because during training, remember, real images were gradually scrambled into static. And at each step, the model practiced figuring out how to process that static and bring the picture back. And that back and forth practice created rules for how to change noise into images. And diffusion then is the skill that it has learned. But that skill is not applied until we come along with a prompt. So let's come along with a prompt, shall we? Here's a prompt. Can you see that? Okay, here's a prompt. So we show up with our prompt. All right. Midjourney starts with a patch of random static, right? We know this. We just discussed it. It starts with a patch of random static that follows the same mathematical formula that the model practiced on. And by the way, we call this the seed. Oh, what happened to my... Hold on, guys. We call this the seed. Okay. We show up with a prompt. Midjourney starts with a patch of random static that follows the same pattern that the model practiced on. We call that the seed. It looks like television static. This picture you're looking at is literally a seed. It's not like a representation of a seed. It is from an older model, the seed. The version 7 has a much finer grained seed. But anyway, step by step in waves, right? You already saw me talk about this. it goes through in waves. These are actually called steps. And the model applies what it learned to sculpt that static into the image that matches your prompt. And that's the application of the diffusion skill. So once we're actually placing pixel patterns, right, this is going to produce some sort of image of a vintage flower bed. And when it takes steps to change noise into the image, this whole process is called denoising, which is a really obvious name for changing, a bunch of noise into something that's not noise. Denoising. So that's the third thing up here that we want to talk about. So training, diffusion, and denoising. So these steps that we're talking about here, where a vintage flower bed becomes an image, that's what we're paying for, guys. When we buy time on the servers, right? We're paying for these steps. This is that earlier graphic that I drew. Remember this little guy? This is the steps. Whoops, we've grown as we've moved through this thing. Here's all those steps. And look, you can run out of time. So when we're talking over here about these steps, we're talking about this drawing that I made in the other at the beginning of the class. All the things we've got to get done in this fixed amount of time in order to get an image. And denoising, if Midjourney actually shows you what denoising looks like. If you look over here when I run a prompt and you see this, you see that very first frame is the seed. And then it slowly denoises to an image. That's the process we can see happening in the percentage captures while we watch a prompt develop, right? That is correct. So you're actually seeing the denoising. It's not literally the denoising, it's selected frames from the denoising so you can see the denoising from the seed into the image. That's what the progress animation is. So how does the prompt control this denoising actually make the image you're describing? Now that is a fun story. Well, fun for nerds like me. So we had a vintage flower bed, right? Let's put that in there. A vintage flower bed. I want to put a period at the end of that, please. Vintage flower bed. Okay. Hold on just a second. I'm going to put this in a 1-1. Okay, vintage flower bed. So how does it work? I mean, when we're thinking about our prompt is somehow controlling these steps somehow. How does that work? It turns out that a prompt is a little bit like a swarm of bees. Okay, tell me you can see. You can't see that. Okay. Everyone, watch out. I'm gonna change the background. It's gonna blind you. Ready? Ay ay ay. How's everyone's retinas? How's everyone's retinas? Everyone's retinas are okay? Burned? Okay. Sorry. We got to see the bees, man. If you guys really want me to go back dark, I will. It's sepia. It's not quite white. A prompt is like a swarm of bees. So here's a vintage flower bed, right? There they are. It's not that, I know everyone can do your retina gifs. Sorry. So it's not like Morgan, were you the one who was asking earlier, does it matter what order we put the words? If a prompt is like a swarm of bees, it means all the words are looked at all at once. It's a swarm of tokens. It's not this token and then that token and then this token. It was Mariana, okay. And then that token, and then it's not in order. It's a swarm. It's a swarm of bees. The bees fly into the model's math world. Okay. They actually go in there. I don't know if I can actually animate that. That would be fun if I can. Can I animate it? Meow. Okay, there we go. They've flown in to the model's math world, which was called, do you guys remember what it's called? Starts with an L. Latent space. They fly into the latent space. You guys are so good. It's like you're listening or something. And they gather pollen, quote unquote pollen. And the pollen is actually rules about textures and shapes and colors and lighting learned during the model's prior training when it correlated images and words together. So out come the bees from their trip into the latent space, okay? And strong bees, strong token bees, return loaded with pollen. They carry a big visual influence into the image. It's not because they were first or second or last. It's because when they went in there, when flower went in there looking for rules about flower, it found a ton of stuff, just so much stuff, right? And vintage found a bunch of stuff, and bed found quite a lot of stuff. But what did A find? I mean, A definitely came back with something, but it's not very strong. He didn't come back with very much. And it's not because he was in the first or second or third word. It's because, you know, he went and tried to find visual relationships related to the word A, pixel patterns, and there's not any clear association with the word A by itself, only inside of patterns. And since it's a swarm, the patterns exist. You can get it's a swarm, right? I gotta make this clear. A vintage flower bed which means we can look at a vintage flower bed, a vintage flower bed as a whole sentence. But we can also look at a vintage. We can also look at a vintage flower. We can also look at vintage flower bed. We can also look at flower bed. Right? So, I mean, there's all these, there's all these combinations of these words that are all being simultaneously looked at the same time. So that means that of course punctuation matters, because a vintage flower bed is different than a comma vintage comma flower comma bed. Let me show you what I mean with that. If I'm going to make a panda eat some shoots and leaves here. He's gonna eat some bamboo. Eat some. Okay, you guys see this, right? Did I switch it right? Yes, I did. Okay, so there he is eating his bamboo. That's pretty cute, actually. Good job, Midjourney. But what if I say a panda eats, comma, shoots, and leaves? If he eats, shoots, and leaves, Then all of a sudden he has an AK-47 fully automatic rifle. I don't know what he has. I don't know guns. That's still pretty cute. But all of a sudden he's got a gun. So if there's nothing more clear to you about how punctuation and grammar works, let the panda remind you. Let the panda remind you. Because as it's developing, as it's looking at the whole swarm, it can see how these groupings of words communicate. How these groupings of words are correlated. So we've got strong token Bs, weak token beans, subtle influence, easy to drown out. And we also have ambiguous token Bs, which are bringing back unexpected pollen. So, for example, imagine Mariana or Morgan or Pakasit, we said, the man kneels and makes a declaration of love to the woman. The man kneels and makes a declaration of love to his husband. So you say declaration, hoping for declaration of love as in romance, but the damn bees come back with parchment scrolls and quills and 18th century typography and powdered wigs and all sorts of things, because declaration, the rules that come back are associated with the Declaration of Independence. That is the stronger, that is the archetypal visuals correlated with the word declaration. So your bees come back with something, it's an ambiguous token. So they come back with something undesirable. So with all of this chaos of these bees coming back to the denoising process, I mean, in the end, the bees are coming over here. Oh, and they turn blue. The bees come over here to help handle the denoising process, right? So how does Midjourney make sure that it gets it right? And the answer is Midjourney is doing two things when it's denoising. It's using the prompt as a checklist, and it's using the rules. Because most dear to us artists is, how does Midjourney make sure it gets our image right? Most dear to us is prompt adherence. So how does Midjourney create prompt adherence? It's called conditioning. It's the model's checklist. Does this picture look coherent? It checks here. Does the image match the prompt? It checks here. The swarm brings back that pollen, right? The diffusion rules, which are called embeddings in AI jargon, by the way. I like that because, I mean, if you think of the bees coming in here and scooping out the embedded rules, it's embedded in the latent space, these rules for pixel pattern placement. The pollen was scooped out from where it was embedded in the overlapping clouds of meaning in that latent space. And then Midjourney checks back and forth, back and forth. It glances at every step in the denoising process, okay? And every step, I'm talking about these steps here. I can put us back on dark, I bet. It checks on every step here. It checks its list. In every step, it checks the pollen, and it checks the prompt, and it checks the pollen, the rules, and the prompt, and the rules and the prompt. Okay, and this checking is called conditioning. Do you see why it's called conditioning? Does it meet the conditions? Does it meet the conditions of correctness? Did it do all these things, and did it do all these things right? But of course, and we've talked about this, you can't really see him, but we're short on time. At every step of the denoising process, the model glances at the checklist of your prompt and the pollen brought back by your token bees, aka the rules for pixel patterns, the embeddings. And that back and forth checking for correctness is called conditioning. And it results in the step-by-step sculpting of the image toward what your prompt asks for, while simultaneously keeping it visually coherent, according to what the model learned during training. Do you see that? The pollen is about coherence. The prompt is about adherence. Coherence and adherence. Checking both of those things is conditioning. But in Midjourney, jobs run on purchase server time, you guys. And if the model runs out of time before it can make sense of the swarm and fully condition the resulting image, then stuff may stay messed up. There's no time to clean up the mistakes. There's no time to fix anything. And even with more time, even with unlimited time, prompt adherence might still not be perfect, because conditioning also depends on how clearly your words even map to what the model learned during training. Some tokens are ambiguous, like you might say trending on ArtStation. You might say Unreal Engine. You might say 16K, HDR, 8K, ISO 2000, like camera metadata or whatever. Those bees fly in and they find just some, like, I don't know, some of this and some of this and some of that. I don't know. They're all kinds of crazy stuff. And then they come back and they dump it into the bucket and say, make sense of that. And Midjourney's like, I don't know how to denoise this. I'm just going to make things silver. I don't know. Right. So some tokens are ambiguous. Some meanings overlap. There are times where I have prompted a vintage flower bed where I actually get beds of the type you sleep in. Every time I rerun this, I'm starting with a new seed. And that new seed might be, oh, look, might be interpreted as a vintage flower bed, because in this case, the bee holding all of the bed stuff was the stronger token. Bed was the stronger token. Trying to move us away from bees and into the real words now. Bed was a really strong token. So I got a vintage bed, and it's floral. Because that's another way that was an ambiguous statement, a vintage flower bed. Is it a vintage flower bed or is it a vintage flower bed? Right? It turns out that if I said, look, a vintage flower bed, which is actually how you say flower bed. It's not flower bed. That's incorrect. It's flower bed. Excuse me, flower bed, one word. Then all of a sudden, in theory, don't fail me now, you get true flower beds, and you won't ever get these things. So, you can fix stuff. Tokens are ambiguous, meanings overlap. Sometimes the model favors common patterns in its data, which is what we call archetypes, statistically common patterns in its data. Librarian. Okay, if you want a librarian that doesn't look like a librarian, don't use the word librarian. That has a statistically common pattern in the data. Librarians look a certain way. Example, imagine you want a unicorn without a horn. What does a unicorn without a horn look like? A fancy donkey. A horse. A unicorn without a horn is a horse. I'm so sorry the screen wasn't up when I was talking through flower bed. You guys got to yell at me if it's the wrong screen. If you don't see me, look over there. That's where the screen changer is. And that's where Midjourney is. And that's where you are. Yes, it's a horse. It's a horse. So the archetype of a unicorn, the definitional part of a unicorn, definitional, is the horn. Yes, it's a horse, of course. A horse with a horn. That's definitional. So we can't just say a unicorn without a horn. Without isn't mapped to anything. Remember the bee with the word a had like little nothing. I mean, it's important to say a or with because it's part of the pattern. Remember, it's a swarm and all the patterns are interpreted at once. So we can't drop those words. We can't drop the word with. We can't drop the word and just say, oh, it's because low influence, we can drop it. We can't because it's part of the pattern matching. So we have to use full sentences, correct grammar, even though we know secretly that individually those words might not be incredibly powerful. We know that when they match the pattern, the whole chunk of words is incredibly powerful. So we can't say a unicorn without a horn because unicorn is too strong. It'll be a unicorn. Or if we say a cowboy without a hat, right? Cowboys definitionally have hats. Unicorns definitionally have horns. So this is not the way to go about it. Can't do it. And we can't even use -- no, which is a parameter, a unicorn, no horn. A cowboy, no hat. -- no is not strong enough to fight archetypes. If you try to -- no something that's definitional to the thing, then -- no is not strong enough. You can use -- no for non-definitional traits. Like I could probably say a cowboy, no horse, because I know that sometimes cowboys don't have horses anywhere near them. Cowboys can still be depicted without horses. So that might change this to a cowboy without horse. Okay, fine. I could probably say a cowboy, no gun. I could say a cowboy, no cigarette. Those things are not definitional to cowboys, but the hat sure as heck is definitional. So that's a lesson in how to use -- no, you guys. So even with more time or with unlimited time, prompt adherence wouldn't happen because of archetypes and other things, which we can talk about more in just a minute. So given our job of limited time and the chaos our token bees can bring home, it turns out that improving the prompt is the most powerful way to improve the outcome. And prompt design is often the most effective lever you have as an artist, prompt design. So here's just a little check-in. I just hit you with a lot, you guys. I hit you with training and diffusion and tokens and denoising and conditioning. Oh my God. How are you guys feeling? Confused? A lot to process. Hanging in there. A lot to process, a lot to process. Yep. A lot to think about. You start to see how prompts play, how they play, and how you can play with them and change the play of them. It's a lot to take on board. But as beginners, it's the only thing you need to know. You need to know that words are tokens, tokens have strength. And you know now that, oh, do you love the bee metaphor? Fantastic. Bookworks. Okay. Yeah, if you know a little bit, like if you're a professional that actually knows a little bit about diffusion, you might be delighted by the bees as well, because it does a pretty good job of explaining how it all happens. So remember the lady with the mug and how we had to Let me scroll back to find her. Let's look at this again. Editorial photography. Now remember, these are all bees. Of a boho woman with brown eyes. Her hairstyle is a messy bun. In one hand, she's holding a mug in the shape of an owl. She's holding her iPhone in the other hand. She is sitting in a cafe. So do you see how I shaped the sentences so that they probably match really well because they're very common sentences? And I used words that are quite strong in terms of their visual association. It's very dense visual language. Let me show you an example of a failure to do dense visual language. Because the next troubleshooting step is, did you use dense visual language? Look at this one. I'm laughing because I'm trying to copy and paste this for you, and the AI and the word like Gemini and the Google Doc is like, can I refine this for you? Yeah, buddy, that's the whole point. That's what I'm trying to say. This thing I'm about to paste. Her hair was in a bun, the kind that had been undone and redone so many times it stopped pretending to be neat. Her eyes were brown, her hair was brown, and she sat in the cafe like she had always been there. What stood out was the mug. It was shaped like an owl, but in the way certain shops make owls fashionable. Its wide ceramic eyes and carved feathers carried the self-conscious air of a stylish purchase, the kind of thing you find near vinyl records and soy candles. She held the owl mug in one hand and her phone in the other, each item a small declaration of her belonging, or her wanting to belong, in a place where even your coffee cup said something about you. It's in the style of John Irving, really, is who I was thinking of when I wrote this. But what I'm trying to say is, when you think of, right, Morgan, when you think about the bees, the swarm, I mean, for frickin' sake, you just sent bees out to get vinyl records and soy candles. But you know what? You don't want vinyl records and soy candles in this picture, do you? Do you? Maybe you do. maybe if you started getting them, I know, maybe if you got this back, let's run it. Maybe if you got this back with your vinyl records and soy candles, you'd be like, ah, yeah, Midjourney's totally grooving. I don't know. Yeah, Midjourney gets me. Midjourney really gets me, man. Sometimes it feels that way. Oh God, she's back to holding it in two hands. No, we lost all our progress. We lost all our progress because we ran out of time. There were too many freaking visual bees. It's not that we, but in the way certain shops make owls fashionable, that is not dense visual writing. You know what that's called? It's called literary writing. No, the literary writing. Don't give Midjourney literary writing, and don't give Midjourney commands or instructions. Are also a big no. Yeah, I think they're great pictures, but they're not what we wanted. Whoops. I'm trying to type this in. Okay, literary writing. Yeah, that's not right. Cannot do commands and instructions. Cannot do literary writing. Cannot do strings of word. If you're trying to do prompt adherence, Mariana, is all I mean. You can't do what do you call them? Comma separated phrases. A lot of people try to do that. Lists, yeah. Laundry lists. Cannot write like that. Right? Where people will type like dog, lawn, backyard, sprinkler system, little boy. Like people want to write like that. Hold on, I accidentally closed the window. Right? No good, Nick. It has to be. Thank you, Josh. I appreciate that. It has to be a dense visual language. Dense visual language. In fact, I bet I even have a slide to show you that will bring this all together for you. And then we're done. Let me find my slide. There's got to be a slide around here somewhere. I probably closed it like a champ. Like a boss. I'm so organized. I'm the most organized. All right. And I can absolutely give this deck contains the things that I've talked about today. And we can absolutely you can absolutely have a copy if you want. We've talked about all this. Hold on. Okay. We talked about punctuation, spelling, and grammar can matter. We talked about no negation or absence, like a unicorn without a horn. Can't do it. No commands, conversation, or instructions. We talked about that. We talked about ambiguous things like ISO 100F/1.8 aperture, Unreal Engine, HDR, etc. We talked about that. We were talking just now about dense visual language. Write prompts using dense visual language so that every word is taking advantage of the limited processing power, if you will, the limited number of steps devoted to that job. You guys get that now. Literary writing waste tokens. Remove inefficient tokens to give processing power to the effective token. Helpful words are descriptive or visually evocative, like textures and colors and shapes and materials. I'll give you a moment to skim this slide if you want. And a full list and discussion of these terms is available via our aesthetic tutorial, which I don't think has made it to the web yet, but will shortly because I'm going to give Abby phenomenal cosmic power. If you want a copy of the slides, by the way, there's a feedback form here. And go ahead and let us know what you thought of the class. The right way to figure out whether your prompt is working out, ask yourself 2 questions. One, what does it look like, which is what's printed on the slide. But the second question you have to ask yourself is, does this word support the pattern matching? Because you might say to yourself, the word with doesn't look like anything, but she holds the mug with one hand, helps the pattern matching of one hand. If we just said mug, comma, one hand, there's no connective tissue there for Midjourney to figure out. There's no pattern matching available there. It's a bad match. Midjourney goes off and looks for a mug, comma, one hand, doesn't find a thing. But if it goes off and looks for a mug with one hand, oh yes, because you know what? All the people who wrote captions and alt text and adjacent text and tagging and so on, they all use that kind of language because they're people who speak English, and that's how we write English. So what does that look like? And if it doesn't look like something, is it at least supporting the pattern matching? Those are the 2 things you've got to ask. So for example, let's say you want a bunch of characters sitting at a table, and you said the first friend is a yellow cat and the second friend is a Yorkshire Terrier. Well, what does first and second look like? They don't really look like anything. Is the first friend I'm not the first friend? The first character, the second, I don't think those things would even match very well. And in fact, if I say the character on the left, the character on the right, the character in the middle, all of a sudden it's very strong matching because those are positional, left, right, and center. And people who are describing images tend to get into the positionals. So all of a sudden, left, right, and middle, visual words, positional words are powerful. First, second, third, weak. How did we learn that? Because the community kept trying it one way and kept trying it the other way, and over time we realized that. So you made it to the end of prompting for beginners. Congratulations, my graduates. Thanks, Yakko. We didn't do the NQ thing. It is kind of fun though. I might bring it back. Woohoo!
You weren't fast enough
I wasn't fast enough for what?
to keep me from seeing the slide.
Oh, true story. I accidentally flashed the NQ. Is that an NQ made of bacon? Amazing. Everyone has no questions queued up because generally I go through Mariana and Morgan and I say, does anyone have any questions? Type no questions. And it was suggested to me that maybe people just wouldn't have formed the questions, but they actually do have them. And so I've been experimenting. So you know what? We're done with the class. Oh, I'm so glad, Mariana. We're done with the class, but we're not done offering you support. Here at Midjourney, you get 24/7 community support for Promptcraft with your membership. We have a web-based Promptcraft support room. If you don't want to come back to Discord, you don't have to. You can use Discord. You can use the web. I'll paste that in. You can leave comments on any of our social media channels. Any of my social media channels, I should say, not the Midjourney official ones. They don't watch it, but I watch the other ones. And now we have time for questions and good job, Josh. Questions and discussions. And again, if you would like a copy of this presentation, just fill out that form. Are there any questions? If you have no questions, type NQ or no questions. NQ, NQ, NQ. I have a question. Someone has a question. Okay. I have a question about the time. Does using turbo affect the quality of the image, or does it have no impact? No impact. Turbo is the speed of the queue you're in. It's the speed of the line you're waiting in to get to your moment where your job is accepted. So you can wait in a really long line, which is relaxed. You wait forever. But then when you're processed at the same level of quality as everyone else. Or you can wait in a really short line, which is turbo. And that will process just like everyone else, but you've waited in a short line. And dash draft is not a speed. It's a quality. Yeah, what?
All right.
Someone's talking. Yes, Josh.
Yep. Space asked the question about the
Oh,
explore
I see it.
page.
How do other users' images get on the explore page? Okay, Spaceface, I will show you. Making sure I'm okay. So if you go to midjourney.com and you select tasks, Spaceface, And then you do curate community front page right here. And then you pick from among these. Like, I think this one's amazing. Of these, I think I don't really like any of these, honestly. I guess this one. You know, pick from among them, and eventually the ones that get the most votes are surfaced on the front page.
How do they get onto this page?
Randomly. The random selection. The only thing that is not random is that I believe it tries to create a variety.
Clarinet, there's a new feature.
What's the new feature?
If you right click on the image and select more, you can submit it for consideration for the pair ranking.
Oh,
pages.
I see. So let's find one that I like. I like this one. Select more. I can rerun or editor.
You have to open the picture first.
Open the picture.
Yep.
More, rerun or editor.
Oh, mine has the option to submit for pair rankings. Oh, Westendorf points out that it's 3 left, so there's a limited number of times you can do it.
Oh, maybe I've done it. I don't remember ever having done it before, but I don't know. 3 per month? Oh, it resets per month. Okay. No space face. There's no direct way to upload. The only way to get on the explore page is for your image to be randomly selected for ranking, and then for people to start ranking your image up. Are you guys hearing me bark? Are there any other questions? It is a fun surprise when you see one. $3 per lifetime? Well, that would explain why I've never seen that feature.
Yeah, I believe that once you pick your 3, you're done. It doesn't ever give you 3 more.
Okay.
And can you do it to other people's images?
Let's find out. I bet not.
I will try one.
Well, if it's
the only
already
way
on
to do it is
Explore,
it's an image
yeah.
that's already there.
Well, hold on. I mean, you could give me
know, it
your account settings public profile. Here, you can go to my public profile and try. Look at all these flowers. Oh, this was when I was trying to make the lion picture, and I decided to draw it myself ultimately. I did not use any Midjourney. No Midjourney images were used in the on the iPad. It doesn't. Okay.
But they now have, you can right click it and say use image, reference style, or describe image. We're using the prompt.
That's cool.
They've made it easier for that stuff.
What did you guys think of the iPad stuff?
Personally, I love it.
Okay.
I'm a note taker, so watching you take notes. It helps things stick in my brain.
Okay, excellent. All right. I mean, this is an infinite canvas thing. Look how everything got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as we talked. How did that even happen? That's the beginning of the class. It's at the top of this thing. And it just
Zooming the canvas instead of just sliding it.
bigger and bigger and bigger. We started out like that.
Are you saving copies of these?
Yeah, uh-huh.
Yay.
Promptogram says, are words like realistic or photorealistic or photorealism, etc., considered jargons? Promptogram, no. They aren't jargon, but they don't mean what you think they mean. People use those words when they want photographic quality. They use those words when they want something to look like a photograph. But realistic, photorealistic, and photorealism are all painterly terms that painters use to talk about paintings. So when you use them to talk about photographs, you get back a painted look. So you're going to get what you asked for, which is photorealism, which is a type of painting. Yeah, it says this, I want photorealism. I want a painting that looks slightly like photorealism has really small brush strokes and a lot of meticulous shading, so it begins to look like a photograph. But it's a painterly term describing paintings. So you're welcome to use the Promptogram. They are not weak tokens. They come back with a lot of pollen, if you will, but it's not going to be photographic. If you want photographic, you have to use photograph, photography, photo, Polaroid, Leica, any of those things. You're welcome. Cinematic, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. I don't see any questions from our Twitch and YouTube folks, so I think we are done.
Ooh, that was abrupt. You just the screen went
Ta-da!
away.
The people on YouTube and stuff can still see. Haha, but you guys can't.
That's a reversal.
Oh, I need to unmute Clarinet because I was listening to her through the
Listening to
stream.
the stream.
Yeah, here we go.
Hello. 1, 2, 3.
Hi.
Okay, so let me bid farewell briefly to Twitch and YouTube and Facebook. And if you're watching this as a recording, then congratulations for reaching the very, very end. Leave a comment on whatever channel you're in, or at me, or just leave a comment and I will swing by and help answer questions and so on, even if it's weeks from now. Go ahead and do that. All right, I'm going to stop the streaming. Good